What's going on, everybody? It's Nick8 here, and Daima episode 6 is here. I can't believe we were 6 weeks into this already. It feels just like yesterday that the series premiered. So we've gotten a lot about this series so far in terms of all the lore it's added, all the new information it's added, all the character tidbits they've added. And every once in a while, and over the last couple weeks, we've had a couple episodes that didn't really add a whole lot in terms of lore, and it was just more story related stuff. Well, this episode, we got a little bit more lore, and the lore that was added in this video, actually, in this episode, that genuinely kind of answers a question that I feel like a lot of people have been having since the news that the Kais are from the demon realm. I know a lot of people were throwing a fit and like, oh my god, but a long time ago, Toriyama, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, that answer does get answered in this episode, so don't worry, and we will discuss all of that, or at least some of the things that I thought were worth in talking about today from today's episode. But as always, spoiler warning. And I only say spoiler warning because, again, I'm just going to cover some stuff. If you don't want to be spoiled and you want to experience every one of these things I'm going to talk about first, please go watch the episode first. Enjoy the episode. I think everybody will have a good time if you've already been enjoying the series so far. And then once you've finished watching the episode, come back over here, listen to what I have to say, and see if I missed something, see if I talked about something that you also found interesting. And hey, if you want to discuss it, drop in the comments below, let me know, and I will gladly talk to you guys about it. I love Dragon Ball, so I love talking to everybody that loves talking about Dragon Ball. But I can get a little passionate when I talk about stuff. So just be ready for that if you drop comments below. But moving on from that, let's discuss a couple things in the episode that happened so far. So right off the gate, when we're going through when they're taking off, we actually get Pansy finally gets revealed that Shin is a god. Because if you remember in the last episode, they crash landed, and we start this episode off with them like figuring out what the issue was. And while they're sitting around there talking, Shin and Goku pretty much reveal to Pansy that Shin is basically a god. And she's like, "Why, you're a god?" And he goes, "Well, I mean, like, yeah, kind of like a title thing, but yeah, I am." It's some cool play, and they're like, Pansy's really excited about it. She's like, "This is really cool." And then of course she's like, "Yo, do you get paid?" He's like, "No, I don't get paid." And of course Pansy's like, why do you even have the job? Why do you have the job? But it's their first time in the series, besides like the beginning, that someone else is kind of made aware that Shin is on the pedestal of being a god. Like, he has attained the title of a god character. And Goku even says, "Hey, of all the Kais, he's the strongest, he's the best." And Shin plays it off like he's he's like, "Oh, Goku, why are you gonna talk to me like that?" But we all kind of know that's true, even though Shin wouldn't be really all that powerful in terms of like comparing him to like Goku or Vegeta. Shin's pretty strong. I mean, when you think of all the Kais throughout the time, North Kai, King Kai has always been like, "Oh no, the Grand Kai is always so tough and powerful." And then of course when Shin's revealed and they're like, he's the Supreme Kai, they're all like, "Oh my god." So in terms of the Kai hierarchy, we all know that Shin's kind of considered the best of the best in terms of that regard. We know he's not strong compared to like Goku and stuff, but hey, it was kind of cool to see all that play up. And then of course, Goku runs off, gotta take care of himself. Goku being Goku has to go to the bathroom, and Pansy's like, are you sure this guy's really the strongest or just a strong guy? And Shin's like, "Yes, strongest in the universe as far as I know." Now, I know for some of you are gonna take that and go like, "Oh my god, they said he's stronger than Beerus." No, that's not what Shin's talking about. Just use some context clues, guys. Use a little bit of deductive thinking when you're listening to this stuff. Pay attention. Shin's not saying Goku is the strongest, period, in the universe. Shin's basically just saying, as far as I know, in terms of mortals, Goku is indeed the strongest mortal. And at this point in time, he would easily be considered the strongest mortal in Universe 7 for sure. Because Beerus is still sleeping at this time, and we know that Shin knows all about Beerus. So again, he's not comparing Goku to Beerus in this moment. He's just saying, yeah, pretty much in terms of mortals, yeah, Goku is absolutely the strongest person in the universe that I'm aware of. And again, at this point in time in the series, he 100% is, because no one really challenges Goku from a mortal level in the universe until Frieza is resurrected and we go to Resurrection F and all that stuff. But of course, with Goku and Vegeta and all this. Anyway, then with the gangs, when Goku was hiding behind a bush taking care of business, two guys from the demon military show up and confront Glorio, Shin, and Pansy. They start asking them a bunch of questions like, hey, if you see a spiky kid with a red pole, let us know, right? But why are you three together? And of course they lie. And it's in this moment they confront and say, where are your callers? And of course Glorio and Shin are like, well, I'm from World 1, I'm from World 2. So they don't even question it. The military's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then Pansy reveals that she has one. So even though Pansy is the princess of Demon World 3, even she has to have a collar on. Like, that's just how controlled the Demon World 3 is. Even the royalty of Demon World 3 has to wear those collars. And it's kind of crazy to think that even the royalty have to wear these collars. Demon World, Goma and them don't be playing apparently at all. So they convince him and they fly off and whatnot. Then Goku comes back, says no big deal. They're like, whatever. So then they take off, start flying again. And they start talking to Shin about, where Kais come from and how Kais are born. They're from World 2. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier at the beginning of the episode, where there's information finally given in this episode that tells you where the Kais are from and how the Kais are actually born. Because several years ago, don't remember exactly what year, but several years ago, it came out, Toriyama told in an interview that the Kais come from the Shinjin tree, and that's how they're born. They're born from the Shinjin tree. So when it was revealed that the Kais are from the Demon World, a lot of people, including some other people on the internet that make reviews talking about Daima, rushed into conclusions way too fast and didn't let the story play out long enough to get their information. Well, for those of you that rushed through and started making accusations and assumptions and statements way too early, guess what? Those statements, they've been proven wrong, because in this episode, Shin 100% confirms that all Kais are or Glens, they call them Glens, but Kais are born from a tree. They don't say Shinjin tree in this episode, but they still say we're all born from a tree. And so he's like, yeah, Degasu and Dr. Unrisu are both his siblings, but they're born at different times. So like, and the way he phrased that is because, and he phrases it like this because Goku asks, so are you and Kibito technically related? He goes, no. Kibito was born from another tree. So Shin reveals there are 5 glend trees in the demon realm, and you're born of a different tree. Does that make any difference on like who goes into what in terms of like Supreme, King, Grand, all that? I don't know. It's just clearly if you're born of the same tree, you're basically like of the same family, and if you're born of another tree, you're of another family, etc., etc. Degasu, he's pointed out that Degasu was born 216 years after him, so he's like his really young brother. And Dr. Anrisu, his older sister, is obviously born of the tree before. But this is the proof right here in the story from Daima that the Kais are still born from the tree that Toriyama mentioned years ago. So if you've been running around ranting and raving and crying about, oh, they're changing stuff, you've been proven wrong, and this series straight up put it right in your face. They used this fact that the Kais were stated to be born from trees, and they held true to that. They just don't call it the Shinjin tree, but hey, I'm not too particularly worried about the semantics of them naming the tree in this episode, because that really wasn't the important part. The part was that Kai said, yeah, we're born from trees, and we're born from 5 different trees, which makes us all kind of different Kais, but we're all Kais, but we're also not all directly related. He also pointed out, which was an interesting, so before I continue with that, I hope every one of you that have been spouting off and spewing nonsense and making up terrible accusations that they're changing the lore and that they're changing the origins of the Kais, I hope you're willing to come out and say, well, guys, I was wrong, because this episode proved it. The Kais are still born of the tree. The tree just exists in the demon realm, whereas beforehand we were never told where the tree's from, just that the tree was where they're born from. Kais are born from the tree. That tree exists in Demon World 2, and there you go. Kais are still born from the tree. Also, Shin pointed out that Kais don't really particularly have genders. He even said this. He goes, we don't really have genders, so we're not really male or female. I don't really know how to take that, because clearly Shin is meant to be a boy, and Dr. Unrisu is meant to be a girl. I mean, heck, when we see the other quadrant Kais, I know they're technically in like filler episodes, but let's be fair, we know they're pretty much canon, because if you have one Kai that's canon, that controls a quadrant, North Kai, well, then the other ones have to have it, right? So, and we've seen other female Kais even in when they did the Tournament of Power in Super. So I don't really know what Shin meant by that. I guess they just don't really label them as male or female or boy or girl. It's just them and them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's most, I think he's just implying that we don't really care to look at it that way. We don't even really care to put any emphasis on it. Because again, Shin's clearly meant to be a boy. Kibido is clearly meant to be a boy. Dr. Unrisu is clearly meant to be a girl. So I think it's just from that concept of we the Glens, we the Kais don't really put too much stock into it. So I guess, yeah, if you were to say, you know, she's a girl, you know, Dr. Unrisu's a girl, she's a girl, right? Like, I think that's what he is implying. So don't read too much into that. I know some people probably will. Don't read too much into it. I think Shin's just saying, hey, we just don't really care about it too much. But if you want to put a label on it, sure. So that was, but again, interesting little tidbit of information, which I actually find really fascinating. I really do. I think that's a really cool thing that they're wanted to throw in there. I don't think it was necessary, but I think it was just good tidbit information, to be honest with you. And again, I'm really glad they stuck to the tree origin, because I was not ready to be hearing people whine and complain and rant and rave for the rest of my time being a Dragon Ball fan, of people complaining about them changing it. They didn't change it. They're still born from the tree. I can't believe I had to keep repeating that, but it's the truth. It is what it is. So finally, the rest of the crew, they're like, hey, we gotta land, let's sleep, let's get some rest, we don't need to be flying around. They land in a cave, and while everyone's sleeping, you know, well, Goku falls asleep first, and then of course Shin, who's been very wary of Glorio, asks him, why do you want to get rid of Goma? And of course he's like, you know, Goma's a bad person, he's just a tyrant, I want to get rid of him. So he's like, okay, you just have a strong sense of justice. And then in the next scene, when they're all sleeping, it's revealed that Glorio is outside the cave, and he's talking to Dr. Onrisu. He's working with Dr. Onrisu. That's the person that hired him to get involved with all this stuff. So finally it's revealed that that's who Glorio was called to World 1 to work for, Dr. Onrisu. So she probably called him before the very first episode. So she was probably planning something already with Glorio prior to like what we saw in the events of episode 1, because we see him in episode 1 peeking in on Goma and Dekatsu. Now that was back when they were already in the throne room, which was after them watching the stuff with Goku and all them. So Glorio could have seen all that too, but clearly Glorio and Dr. Onrisu have been working together for a little bit, and once Dr. Onrisu found out about Goku and the death of Boo and blah 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 and all that, she clearly was like, oh, okay. So Dr. Onrisu probably is going to want to uproot Goma for herself. She definitely wants Glorio involved getting Goku for something. We don't know what yet, but we are finally revealed like who brought in Glorio to do all this stuff. Because again, in the last episode, it's revealed that Glorio went to the third Demon King with the proposition versus being asked, you know. So again, Dr. Onrisu is the one plotting stuff with Glorio. So I don't know what she's planning yet, but I think it probably has something to do with her doing this stuff with Glorio and doing stuff with Goku to attain some level of power. She might be after the Dragon Balls too. She might be using Goku to get the Dragon Balls herself. Don't really know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I was like, that was good bit drop right there. I like that. So keep an eye out for Dr. Onrisu for the rest of the series, and see what she's been planning, because she's clearly someone to keep an eye on. She's not just some eye candy. She's definitely someone that needs to look for. Now, after all that, Glorios go back to the cage, and they get confronted by a Minotaur, and the whole scene with the Minotaur makes me laugh, because Goku keeps calling him a cow, and he's getting so angry and mad. And he's like, I'm not a cow. I walk on 2 legs. I'm talking. I eat people. I'm not a cow. I'm a Minotaur. And then Goku's like, that's a pretty cool name. And honestly, the Minotaur just reminded me of Mr. Satan in so many ways. Just the way he gets playful and all this stuff, and the way he gets, you know, like, oh, thank you so much, you know, loves to have his ego fed. So it definitely reminded me of Mr. Satan. And then Glorio's like, I'll take care of him, don't worry. And then Goku's like, no, I'll do it, don't worry. And Glorio's like, oh, you think you're stronger than me? And, you know, Goku's, yeah. I know I am. Like, I'm not trying to brag, but I know I am. So Goku and Glorio decided to pretty much have a sparring match, and Goku's like, I'll fight you with one arm. I won't even fight you with both arms. I'll fight you with one arm. And they start sparring, and as they're going about it, Goku's doing just fine. He's not really taking any, he's not even taking damage. He's doing what Goku does. He displays his skills as a martial artist, and, you know, just still enjoying himself. He even admits, you know, you do a little bit better than I thought you'd be. But then Shin's like, Goku, actually take it seriously. I want to see how strong Glorio actually is. Actually fight for real. Goku's like, all right, you asked me to, I will. Let's go. So then Goku starts fighting for real. He rushes Glorio. He's hitting him, throwing down with the Noribo, the power pole. And then Glorio starts to display the magic. Because remember, to them, what Goku and them do with the ki and the energy beams and all their techniques, they refer to that as magic. So Glorio starts displaying magic, and which is the title of the episode right there, lightning. His magic displays like concepts of what looks like lightning. So he calls it down, and they're like, oh my god, you can. And I think it was Pansy's like, oh my god, you can do it. He goes, yeah, of course I can do this. And Glorio makes no effort to do this. So clearly him performing the magic or using ki, I guess. Well, actually, I'm not even gonna say it's ki. I feel like them in the demon realm is actually using genuine magic, whereas those in the mortal realm outside of the demon realm have actually learned how to use actual ki from the body itself. So they might actually be two different things altogether. I'm just gonna say that they are two different things until we see something like maybe Goku and them kind of like, oh no, what you're doing is actually called ki. You're using it stuff in the body. So for now, I'm just gonna say the demon realm characters like Glorio and stuff are actually using genuine magic techniques, because we know magic is real. And he's using genuine magic techniques, and Goku's just using ki techniques. That I'm just gonna say for now. We may, like I said, we may get something wrong. But anyway, Glorio's blasting him with it, and Goku's like, okay. And then he gets this feeling. You see him like engulf his body in the golden Super Saiyan glow, and he's like, okay, I think I got this. Because in the last episode, we saw him briefly transform. Briefly, but he didn't hold it very long. He briefly did it. So then in this episode, he fully transforms into Super Saiyan. Full stop, like staying in the state, and finishes the fight with Glorio. That scene from the trailer that we saw before where Goku straight up knife punches with his hand, straight up knife punches a beam and it disperses. That was from Glorio. That was from Glorio in their fight right now. So he disperses it, quickly teleports behind Glorio, and he's like, all right, you're done. And Glorio's like, yeah, I admit defeat. You lost. And they're all like, oh my god, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's Super Saiyan. I wasn't entirely sure I could hold it being in my kid form. But hey, it's good to know that I can. So last week when Goku clearly went Super Saiyan, that was him briefly tapping into that strength. But again, since he didn't hold it for very long, I guess in Goku's mind, he's like, well, I kind of did it, so I should be able to do it. So let me try. So this little sparring match they had with Glorio was Goku's moment of going, yep, I can 100% go Super Saiyan. So that's good to know. We already knew that. We saw the trailers. We saw the intro. We know Goku and even Vegeta will be able to use Super Saiyan, no problem. But it was that, just the story for the Goku going, okay, I can do it for real. I'm not worried. I can go Super Saiyan. We're good. So then we see the Minotaur try to sneak away, and then Goku calls him out, and he's like, yo, we gonna fight or what? Let's go. And the Minotaur, told you, being very much like Mr. Satan, starts making these excuses like, oh, you know what? I had a big dinner last night, and I just realized I'm not hungry. So, you guys are lucky. And his stomach starts growling, and he's like, oh, time for bed, and disappears and takes off running. And again, very Mr. Satan, and it made me laugh. It genuinely made me laugh, and it's finally fun to see some of these more comedic characters come up into the story again. I've been waiting for a comedic character to pop back up, have a little fun, and dip out again. And we end the episode off with going back to the lookout. Bulma finishes up the ship. She says it's all ready to go. So Kibido, Vegeta, and Piccolo are all in the ship. They go to take off, and then the ship fails. Bulma wasn't with them. And I thought, I was like, oh wait, are they actually gonna trick us and make us think Bulma was with them? Which no, the ship crashes back down, so it fails, and Bulma's like, what? Yeah, and that's how the episode ends. So that makes me think, because in last week's episode, the third king of the Demon World 3 king, Pansy's dad, he sends that penguin-looking guy to go to the lookout to grab Goku's friends and bring them to the Demon Realm. that's probably, again, I assume that's how they're going to get to the demon realm. This episode just kind of confirmed it in general. Bulma wasn't able to fully fix the ship to make it flyable. Next episode, we'll probably get a little bit of Goku, probably get a little bit more with Vegeta in them, because I feel like next week's episode is going to have that penguin dude show up, tell them, and take them to the demon realm. So I think that's finally that, yeah. We're going to see some more Vegeta in them next week. I have a feeling. And then the penguin guy's going to show up and be like, oh, I'm this. I've already met your friend, Goku. Get in the ship. Come on, I'm taking you to the demon realm. I got asked to by my king, so let's go. Let's go. Come on. So don't worry about that. That plot will be fixed. Anyway, that was all the stuff I really want to talk about in this episode. So now to discuss what I liked about, discuss how I felt about it. I'm just having a good time with this episode. It's been a really fun adventure so far. Good, wacky, traditional Toriyama humor. Reminds me of classic Dragon Ball. And I know a lot of you, I've been seeing it all over the internet. Bunch of dudes getting on their podcasts, being all like, Dragon Ball Daima is just for kiddies. There's no big... No, it's not. Daima is actually is a callback to where Dragon Ball originally started. This is how classic Dragon Ball was. This is how classic Dragon Ball has always been written. And if you're not vibing with it, that just means you're not really a fan of the entire series of Dragon Ball. You're only really a fan of the Super Saiyan transformations, of the hype-ass fights, of the big beam struggles. So you're not a fan of what makes Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball. At its core, Dragon Ball is a mystical adventure of Goku going out and just doing things and learning and becoming a better martial artist. That is literally the story of Dragon Ball. Toriyama just raised the stakes a little bit in Z, but that's the heart of it, is Goku just going out and doing an adventure. And Daima is 100% calling back to that. I've been having a good time. I think I enjoyed this episode way more than I enjoyed the last 2 weeks. I'll say that much. I enjoyed this one much more than the last 2 weeks. Not that the last 2 weeks were bad, just that I enjoyed this one a lot more. So I look forward to next week's episode. Next week's episode was called Collar, so I got a feeling they're going to try to take Ponzi's collar off, and it's going to be a good time, guys. I really think so. And I hope you guys stick around for the entire series. I hope you guys watch it. I hope you guys find your way back to this video, because this has been my review and my talk about Dragon Ball Daima Episode 6. Let me know what you guys think about in the comment below. Let me know myself how I've been doing. And until next time, everybody, see ya.